James Whitmore wasn't just wealthy, he was the name that made Wall Street tremble and corporate empires rise or fall. But despite all his fortune, the one thing James truly valued was his son, Oliver. At 2 years old, Oliver was the center of James's universe. After his wife's passing during childbirth, James had buried himself in work, trying to fill the gnawing emptiness with deals and acquisitions. Yet no matter how many zeros padded his bank account, nothing soothed the ache like seeing his son smile. But lately, even that had been rare. Oliver was slow to walk, unsteady on his feet, and refused the help of the dozen nannies James had hired. Therapy sessions and specialists had reassured him it would come in time, but time was the one thing James, deep down, was terrified he couldn't buy. It was a golden afternoon in Central Park, the kind where the air smelled like cotton candy and laughter floated from the carousel nearby. James, clad in his tailored suit and leather shoes, sat stiffly on a park bench, phone in hand, scrolling through emails while his bodyguard hovered discreetly a few feet away. Oliver sat in his stroller, babbling softly, playing with a stuffed giraffe. James glanced up, distracted by a tiny figure approaching them, barefoot, ragged, and no older than 15. She was rail-thin, her brown hair tangled into a messy braid, her oversized hoodie swallowing her frame. But it was her eyes that caught James's attention, not desperate or dull, but full of life. Full of hope. She crouched in front of Oliver without hesitation, smiling warmly. "Hey there, little guy," she said, her voice light as a songbird's. James sat up, frowning, but something about her manner stopped him from calling out. Oliver reached for her instinctively, his usual shyness forgotten. The girl laughed and gently helped Oliver stand, holding his tiny hands. "You can do it. Just one step," she encouraged, her voice patient and bright. To James's astonishment, Oliver didn't cry or collapse into a frustrated heap like he did at home. Instead, he planted one foot forward, then another, wobbly, uncertain, but unmistakably walking. James's heart slammed against his ribs. He stood, nearly dropping his phone, as he watched Oliver take 4 steps, giggling the whole time. Tears stung his eyes, an emotion he hadn't allowed himself to feel in so long, now rushing back uninvited. He approached, clearing his throat. "Excuse me, what's your name?" he asked, softer than he intended. The girl turned, startled but not afraid. "Maya," she said. "Maya Green. Do you know anything about physical therapy?" he asked, trying to make sense of what he had just witnessed. Maya shrugged, a shy smile curving her cracked lips. "A little. I used to help my brother. He had cerebral palsy before we lost him." James felt a lump form in his throat. He noticed then how thin her arms were, how bruised her knees looked. She couldn't have been living anywhere but the streets. "Where are your parents?" he asked carefully. Maya's face flickered, a shadow passing over her youthful features. "Gone," she whispered. "It's just me now." An uncomfortable silence grew between them, broken only by Oliver's squeals of delight. James crouched down, picking up his son, who was reaching for Maya like she was the sun itself. "You're amazing," James said hoarsely. "You got him to walk when no one else could." Maya shrugged again, as if it was no big deal. "He just needed someone to believe he could." James stood there, grappling with 1,000 emotions, guilt, gratitude, sorrow. He looked at Maya more closely now, not as a stranger, but as a miracle. "Come with me," he said impulsively. Maya took a step back, wary. "I don't want any trouble, mister." "No trouble," James promised. "Just, maybe you can help Oliver. I can pay you. You shouldn't be out here alone." Maya hesitated, glancing around the park like a skittish bird. James's bodyguard, sensing the situation, stepped forward reassuringly. "Safe place. Food. Bed," James added quietly. "No strings." Maya's chin wobbled. For the first time, James noticed how fiercely she held herself together, like a castle built from paper and grit. She nodded once. They took her back to James's penthouse overlooking the city skyline. Maya's eyes widened at the gleaming marble floors, the grand piano in the corner, the shelves lined with books and expensive art. Yet, she made herself small, careful not to touch anything. Over the next few weeks, Maya became a fixture in their lives. She worked magic with Oliver, coaxing him into laughter, games, and more walking than James had ever dreamed. But more than that, Maya lit up the cold, silent rooms with a warmth that James hadn't realized was missing. One night, after Oliver had fallen asleep curled against Maya on the couch, James sat down across from her with a heavy sigh. "You saved him," he said simply. Maya ducked her head. "He saved me, too," she whispered. James leaned forward. "Tell me your story. Please." And so, haltingly at first, Maya told him. About how she grew up in the foster system, bouncing from house to house. How she had a little brother, Theo, who was born with severe health issues. How she fought to keep them together, even running away from abusive homes. How Theo died last winter in a freezing shelter when they couldn't find a bed. How since then, she'd been alone, surviving on scraps and stolen moments of kindness. James listened, every word carving into his heart like a blade. "I tried to keep smiling," Maya said softly. "Because that's what Theo would have wanted. He always said, even if you're stuck in the dark, you can still be the light." Tears blurred James's vision. In all his years chasing success, he had never met anyone richer in spirit than this girl who had nothing. "You don't have to survive alone anymore," he said, voice breaking. "If you'll let me. I'd like to adopt you." The words hung in the air, heavy and sacred. Maya's mouth dropped open, disbelief flashing across her face. You'd want me?" she whispered. "More than anything," James said. "Oliver already loves you. And so do I." Maya covered her face with her hands, silent sobs shaking her thin frame. James moved closer, wrapping an arm around her trembling shoulders, feeling for the first time in years that maybe, just maybe, he had found a family again. Months passed, seasons turned, and the penthouse that once felt like a gilded prison bloomed into a real home. James officially adopted Maya, and on the day the judge banged his gavel, Oliver clapped and squealed, running into Maya's arms on strong, steady legs. James built a foundation in Theo's name, helping homeless youth find shelter, education, and hope. Maya, with her indomitable spirit, became its shining ambassador, sharing her story to inspire others. And through it all, Oliver thrived, walking, running, laughing, a testament to the power of belief and the healing hands of a girl who once had nothing but still gave everything. Sometimes James would sit quietly, watching them play in the garden he built for them, sunlight dancing on their faces. He would think back to that day in the park, the day he found not just Oliver's first steps, but the steps that led him back to life. In the end, it wasn't his millions that saved them. It was kindness. Pure and unearned. And as James tucked his 2 children into bed at night, he knew, with a certainty deeper than any business deal he'd ever made, that the real treasures in life weren't bought. They were found, in the most unexpected places, on the most ordinary days, like a barefoot girl in the park teaching his son to walk.